This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so I'm going to start that over again because we're recording it now. So welcome you guys from all over the world, and those new faces that haven't been here before, welcome to you guys too. So this is our weekly detox webinar. If you have been joining us, you know that there's 2 webinars a week. On Tuesdays, we have the detox program webinar, and on Fridays, we have the mindset part of it, which is sometimes even more interesting than the detox part of it because our brains and our minds and our emotions tend to get in the way of detox. Tonight's subject is something we've talked about before. I should introduce my lovely assistant here. So this is my husband, Anthony.
Hello.
And he's the one who wrote the chapter on protein in the book. And so this chapter, this webinar is really, really important. As I mentioned earlier, this is probably the most common question we get when people are embarking on detox. They want to know, wait a second, where am I going to get my protein? Because as I mentioned before and in the past, that when we take out things like oils and salts and peppers and sugar and processed food, people totally get that. They totally understand, if I'm going to clean my body, if I'm going to alkalize my body, then I'm going to remove those things. And they even understand the removal of animal protein, right? This whole plant-based world, this plant-based nutrition trend has been going on for some time. We've been plant-based for almost 29 years, but this very big trend towards plant-based, people are understanding the reasons for taking out animal protein, even if it's just for a temporary period of time when you're detoxing. But what the challenge becomes is to take out the things like the beans and the grains and the nuts and the seeds, because then that's when that question comes in. But wait a second, where am I going to get my protein if you're taking all of these things out? So there's a couple of things that we're going to talk about, and I brought Anthony because he did write the chapter on protein. So there's a couple of things that we're going to talk about in regard to that. We're going to talk about what protein actually is, where it comes from, and how much you really need in the body, if there is an actual number, which Anthony will get into. So we'll start off by talking about that, and then we'll bring your questions in. And as we always say, you know, listen to other people's questions, because that might be what you were thinking about asking, and that way we don't ask the same thing more than one time. And that said, he's got a heavy sigh because he didn't prepare for this, because we just realized which webinar it was tonight.
Right.
But he lives this, so he doesn't really have to.
Yeah. First, I'm only going to give a little bit of a leeway, more than 10 minutes. So I wasn't quite prepared for this. But so I just want to say one thing. She had said something kind of interesting about this being one of the most important subjects that we cover. And the truth is it's actually one of the least important. And that may seem kind of at odds with what people typically talk about, the importance of protein. But the truth is protein is in everything. It really is. And eating a variety of fruits and vegetables, and if you like, some nuts and seeds, but not during detox. If you eat a variety of fruits and vegetables sufficient to support your lean body mass, then protein is a non-issue. Really, a complete non-issue. You would have a very difficult time designing a diet. If you tried to intentionally design a diet in which you didn't get sufficient protein, but were eating a variety of fruits and vegetables, you probably couldn't do it, even if you tried. So my bottom line of advice, or bottom line takeaway that I like people to get from talking about protein is don't even think about protein. Just eating, again, good fruits, vegetables, some nuts and seeds perhaps, and the whole problem goes away. But we're here, so we'll talk about it in a little bit more detail. One of the questions that we often encounter is, how much protein do you need? And there's really no set answer to that. No one really knows exactly how much protein you need. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't have good guidelines to go by. And the typical guideline is about 0.8 grams of protein for every kilo of body mass. And that's a pretty reasonable number. Some people like to go a little bit higher. Some will go down to like 0.5 to around 1.2 per kilo. But settling in on about 0.8 is a pretty reasonably accepted number. So when you look at that 0.8 per kilo, and you figure out how many calories it takes to support yourself. So somebody like me, to support my lean body mass, I don't know, it's somewhere around 1,600 calories. Could be a little more, could be a little less. It all depends on how active I am on.
I want to interrupt you for a second. Could you explain a little more lean body mass?
So lean body mass would be what you would weigh if you were not carrying around excess weight. It's generally what you should weigh, your proper normal weight. Now, who knows exactly what that is? We're all built a little bit differently, right? People have different body masses. Some people have thick bone and some are thin and light. But whatever that is, whatever you are, generally speaking, it would be 0.8 grams for your lean body mass. So if you're carrying around extra weight, you would want to figure out what would your lean body mass be, and that would be the basis for determining that 0.8.
So you wouldn't consume more protein because you happen to weigh more?
No, there's a certain.
It's important to know.
Right.
Because a lot of people, when they're working out, a lot of these guys are working out big time, but they do have excess weight, then believe that they need more protein because of their total body weight.
So generally speaking, for somebody like me, let's say around 1,500 calories is what I need to consume in a day to just maintain my lean body mass. So if you figure out 0.8 grams per kilo, it's something like every 36 calories or 35, let's just, every 35 calories that I ingest, I need to take in about a gram of protein. Now, when you look at that number and you look at the amount of protein that is offered by fruits and vegetables, you find that it is so easy to meet that number. It's actually hard not to meet the number, especially when you have a lot of vegetables in your diet. So as a general rule, dark leafy green vegetables will provide you about 1 gram for every 10 or 11 or 12 calories, something like that. So even if you have a dark leafy green that doesn't have a whole lot of protein, let's say it's a gram for every 12 calories, that would still be providing you 3 times what you need. Things like spinach, that goes all the way down to about 1 gram of protein for every 7 calories. Spirulina, chlorella, that even goes down further. So you start to see you actually get a lot of protein in fruits and vegetables. Now fruits, it's quite a bit less. Fruits will be, depending on the fruit that you eat, but fruits will be right around at the limit, right around at that 36 to 40 grams, 40 calories for every 1 gram, sometimes 50 calories for every 1 gram. That's why you definitely going to want to throw in some vegetables. Non-dark leafy green vegetables, cruciferous vegetables, they have plenty, not quite as much as dark leafy greens, but you can see 1 gram for every 20 calories, even less. So it's kind of hard not to get sufficient levels of protein eating a diet of mixed fruits and vegetables. Now, one of the things that you often will hear is fruits and vegetables don't have complete proteins. And by that, it doesn't have all 8 or 9, however you want to count it, essential amino acids. An essential amino acid would be those, yes, Bernie.
Can you move a little closer to the mic because we can hear you very well. Your voice is not very clear.
So, and is that better?
Yes, better. Is that better, Claire?
So,
Thanks, Claire.
yeah, thank you. So, oftentimes what you hear is that the fruits and vegetables don't have complete amino acids, doesn't have all the essential amino acids. So essential amino acids are those amino acids that your body cannot synthesize from other sources. Those are amino acids that you do have to take in from outside sources, food, of course. So I did the research to see if there were any fruits and vegetables that didn't have all 8 or 9 essential amino acids. It's typically 9. I couldn't find one. I mean, I'm serious. I couldn't find a single fruit or a single vegetable that didn't have all 9 essential amino acids. Now, some of them had certain amino acids in lower quantities than others, you know.
The ratios.
Yeah, and that's perhaps, you know, another criticism that I wanted to go to, which is people will say, well, yes, maybe it does have all 9 essential amino acids, but you know, maybe your spinach doesn't have them in the right quantities, or your broccoli doesn't have them in the right proportions. But that kind of ignores the fact that we eat food, a variety of food. We don't just eat one food in isolation. And so when you bring these fruits and vegetables together in their totality, they really cover all of your protein needs in both quantity and in variety easily. This is not even difficult. That's why I try to say that early on. I said, well, it was kind of funny to hear Roseanne say this is a really important subject. The truth is, this is not really an important subject. It's really, really easy to meet your dietary requirements. I haven't paid attention to my protein intake in forever. And I can't even remember. I mean, the last time probably I paid attention was when I was writing the chapter for the book, so that I could kind of track what it is that I was doing.
One of the other things I wanted to mention is when you're talking about the essential amino acids, right? So the human body can't use a protein. A protein is just links of amino acids. So in our digestive process, we've got to break those links and then utilize those amino acids. And so when they talk about needing all 8 or 9 essential amino acids in food, they want you to think that you need all of that right now in what you're eating. So in every morsel of food that you take in, you should have all the essential amino acids. And that's not true. It's not even not true for that one food. It's not true for that one meal. And it's actually not true for that one day, right? So if you don't eat all 8 essential amino acids in one day, but then the next day, let's say you get more of one on Monday, and then on Tuesday you get more of the other, that's all you need. You don't need to get high levels of each one every single day. So, you know, when you think about humans as hunter-gatherers, more gatherers than anything else, we gather as we come across it. So we didn't go out gathering a Thanksgiving Day dish that has, you know, 10 different things on it. We went out and gathered, and we ate as we gathered. So the human body is perfectly capable of not having everything it needs in every single meal, let alone every single day.
Yeah, so I often tell people that the protein that you get from fruits and vegetables is superior to what you get from animal products. And I usually start with that when I have when I give a discussion. And by the end of the discussion, somebody always invariably asks me, well, why is it better? Is the protein better? And the truth is it's not that the protein is any better. It's that the food that is delivering the protein is far superior. So I'm not concerned about you getting sufficient levels of protein. What I am concerned about is you getting sufficient levels of nutrition. And that's a much broader, you know, that's taking a much broader view of your diet than just concerning yourself with protein. Again, the protein is a non-issue. I want to make sure you're getting sufficient nutrition. And I know if you're eating a variety of fruits and vegetables, you're eating them relatively close to the way that they appear in nature, you're eating sufficient quantities to support your lean body mass, I know you're getting really good nutrition. If you're eating, you know, pepper steak, well, you know.
Or take it even a step further and think about these commercials where they're selling you Ensure, or they're selling Pediasure for kids, right? Kids who can't grow, supposedly. Then they give them this sugary, processed, dead, high protein food. And there's nothing else in it that is nutritious or life-giving. As a matter of fact, there's nothing in it that's life-giving. It's just a matter of chemical proteins and calories.
Yeah, so the other thing I really like about seeing that you're eating, again, a variety of fruits and vegetables to support your lean body mass is I know that you're not eating processed food. If you're eating this, you're not eating. So in diet, what you don't eat is at least as important as what you do eat, at least, perhaps more. And so, you know, we're filling in, taking out maybe processed foods and things that aren't so great for you. and replacing it with things that are really good for you. So I'll give you a quick rule of thumb, and I won't get into nutrition too much because that's Roseanne's area. But as a general rule of thumb, and you can poke holes in this, but generally speaking, this really holds true. Any food that you eat that makes you thirsty is probably not good for you. Now, that's not entirely true. It's not always true, and it doesn't hold in reverse. Just because something doesn't make you thirsty doesn't mean it is good for you. But if you eat something that makes you thirsty, it's probably not good for you. And it's a really good rule of thumb to if you just live by that rule of thumb with diet, you're generally in good shape.
And so when you see these high protein diets, these paleo diets and these keto diets, right? Everyone's checking their urine to see if they're too acidic, and people tend to be very thirsty. So there's where those rule of thumbs come in with how much water to drink. You take your body weight and you divide it by 2, and that's how many ounces. You add a 0 or whatever the hell the formula is, and that's how many ounces of water you're supposed to drink a day. And we have people, Veronique, Kathy, see this all the time, coming into the office who carry their bottles of water and they drink. I mean, I've had people tell me they drink 1 and 2 gallons of water a day. That's insanity. And you never leave the bathroom. But they're drinking all of that water because they have to. Because a high protein diet is a high dehydrating diet. It is not a hydrating diet. And so you've got to do something to compensate, let alone the damage that it's doing to your kidneys day in and day out. The other thing I wanted to mention is, you know, when Anthony was talking about protein levels and, of course, getting more in vegetables than fruit, and then people worry when they're on, you know, phase 2 or phase 3 of the diet, wait a second, what if I don't get enough protein today because I'm doing phase 2, you know, detox diet for the next 2 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever? Again, it comes down to, it's not the amount of protein you're getting in that moment. Your body has plenty of storage and will do so as you gain more protein. It will store what it needs. And if you eat too much protein, what does it do? It gets rid of it, or you store it as fat.
But even if you eat a diet of entirely fruit, the truth is that your shortfall of protein based on the 8 grams per kilo, assuming that's even correct, right? It could be 5 grams, who knows what it is, but working from that 8 grams per kilo, your shortfall really isn't even that much. I did an experiment once, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but I did it with peaches. And I thought to myself, okay, what if I ate 1,500 calories or 1,600 calories of peaches a day? How much protein would I get? And it turned out that the protein was mildly, you know, a mild shortfall of what, you know, the numbers say I should have. It wasn't even that far off. So, you know, for the short period of time that you're going to be on detox, it's actually preferable, right? Because you want to be giving your body a rest anyway. But
so we've developed this really strong fear about not getting enough protein. You've never heard anyone saying, are you getting enough sugar? Are you getting enough carbs in your diet, you know?
But how about micronutrients and you know, the things you really need to worry about getting that people don't get?
Right.
You know.
And then the other thing, and those of you who are raised Catholic might get this, but we've made in modern life protein the, you know, sacred macronutrient, right? There's proteins, fats, and carbs, and we've made protein that sacred, most important micronutrient, which is kind of funny since your cells run off of sugar for energy, but we've made it that sacred macronutrient. And I always use the analogy, and those of you who are raised Catholic might get this, but you know, the Trinity, right? The Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and you ask your average Catholic, which is the most important? And the first thing is, well, the Father, but you can't be a father without a son, right? So you need, well, that's right, the Son, that's the most important. He rose from the dead, that's the most important. But then you go, wait a second, but the Holy Spirit had some action in there, you know? So I know, sorry for the religious, you know, analogy. But it's important to understand that we cannot put an importance on just one macronutrient, especially when you look at us as a species, as the dog just lost in, right? you look at us as a species and you really start to understand the necessity of certain foods and certain micro and macronutrients in our diet.
That was it? Unless there's questions.
There's going to be questions. Are there questions? How could it? Yes, Ria. Oh, wait, you might be muted.
Yeah, I was. Are you getting more protein from the fiber, or is it okay? You're gonna get just as much protein if I add like a vegetable juice to my day?
In other words, do you need to have the fiber to get the protein?
Oh, no, I don't think so. But you would know the answer.
No, you don't. I mean, all the nutrition. Now, is there going to be, will there be some protein or some vitamins or minerals left in the fiber? There will be, sure. You can't get it all out. However, the thing to understand is when we juice, the reason why we juice is to be able to take in a large amount of something that we couldn't otherwise eat. So if you're going to juice, you know, if you're going to do a juice day, right? You would juice maybe 3 heads of celery, maybe a bag of carrots, maybe, you know, 10 apples, a container of spinach, right? You're going to make juices for the day. And again, I'm doing mostly vegetables here, but you're not going to be able to consume that amount of food, you know, in its solid form, right? So you're pulling out, right? You'd be chewing like a horse all day. So you're pulling out that nutrition and leaving the fiber behind so you can get lots of nutrition. What's the gentleman who's Gerson? That was a premise of Gerson, and also Dr. Norman Walker, who lived to be over 100 years old, was to use juices very therapeutically. So you get large amounts of nutrients, large amounts of hydration, large amounts of energy in order to carry out a certain detox process. And building, we also do building with it. That's a good question. Who else? I love that there's no protein questions. Have we taught you well? Yeah, Claire's going, yeah, we have. Is there anyone who's not on video that has questions? Does anyone? No, we're good. Okay.
Well, thank you.
I love that. Well, hang on a couple more minutes because we might find something.
Claire has a question.
Yes, Claire. Hold on, let's unmute you. Where are you? Oh, you should be unmuted.
I don't think so. There you go.
Not yet? I think you might be, there you go. Got it.
I was starting to read a little bit about mono eating. So what's the deal?
That's a good question. So mono meals are meals of just one thing, one food. And you can do a mono meal, meaning just one meal a day, have a mono meal. You could do the whole day. You could do, so mono meal is choosing one thing, right? So maybe you're going to choose melons, or maybe you're going to choose grapes, or maybe you're going to choose oranges, or maybe you're going to choose spinach, right? So you would just eat that alone in that one meal, or maybe you'll have that in each meal of the day, or maybe each meal of the day will be a different food, but a single food. What's the point of that? When you mono meal fruits, you take it up several notches in your detox. So that's why you'll see people do like grape fasting or melon fasting. The other positive aspect to mono meals is that you take all of the, not all of, but 95% of the stress off of your digestive system. You don't have to deal with food combining. You don't have to deal with gas and bloating and things like that. So mono eating can be really good if you've got digestive issues. Think about those of you who have babies or have had babies. When you take them from breast milk to solid food. You don't give them, you know, potatoes and avocado and carrots and all at once. You do one thing at a time, and you find that it's really, really good and easy on their digestion. So it can help with digestion. It can help with digging deeper into detox, especially if you're going into fruit. It can really help your body to focus on one thing in terms of digestion and then really get to dig out of that lymphatic system. Also, you can do mono meals with very specific goals. So we know that grapes really pull hard on the lymphatic system. So maybe you're somebody who's always congested. Maybe you've got asthma, bronchitis, pneumonia, you've got allergies. So pulling really hard on the lymphatic system, you know, you would choose those foods that really pull hard. Maybe we're working now on building someone back up. So Rhea was talking about juicing. So sometimes after you've detoxed for a while, we want to do some building and some strengthening. So we'll go ahead and do some nice green juices. Or maybe you want to eat a lot of sprouts, right? So maybe you're doing, again, some rebuilding. Get into your alfalfa sprouts, get into your pea sprouts, get into your sunflower sprouts. And this is a way to start to build back up. Maybe you're post-detox and you're looking to get back into your workout really hard. That's what Anthony did. That's why he wrote that chapter before we had any intention of there being a book, was to help my patients who are detoxing. What do we do to maintain good protein levels, if that's even an issue, which we've decided it's not? And then what do we do post-detox? He wanted to get back into bodybuilding. He wanted to get back into those obstacle course races and things that he does. So that's when he started to really amp up some of the spinaches and the sprouts and things like that. That's a good question, Claire. Thank you.
Well, I was reading in like the New Medical Medium book, he's talking about the mono eating, and he was very specific if you wanted to do a 7-day cleanse on that. Like he only had 7-ish fruits or vegetables that he said in like bananas and papaya could be eaten together, or just bananas, or you know, lettuce and you know, like he had peas, like and he said doing grapes for more than, you know, a day or so is really not good because it's too I think it was astringent or acidic. I can't remember what he said. It wasn't
Not
good.
acidic, no. Astringent, yes. And I've had patients on 40-day grape fasts and 60-day grape fasts. So listen, it depends on what's going on with you, and that's why you guys work with us individually.
Right.
But when we're talking about things like tumors, and we're talking about things like cancer, then absolutely Dr. Morse will encourage to go on a mono meal, and a lot of grape fasting is done. Melon, citrus as well. Dr. Morse lived on citrus, how long was that? 6 months.
6 months.
Navel oranges in California. So yeah, you know, you got to be careful of the terms always and never, right? Always do this and never do that. There's usually going to be some situation where that does not hold true. But you know, I look a lot towards you know, the people who have come before me, the people like Norman Walker, you know, Jensen, Gerson, and, you know, of course, Dr. Morse, who's with us at the same time. And he relies a lot on some of the not ancient, but the older naturopaths and natural hygienists too. So I think we just have to be careful of that always and never.
Well, you know, like cows, they only eat grass, and apes usually eat bananas, you know. So, I mean, these big, huge animals. No, but I mean, like, what I'm trying to say is like these big animals, you know, like cows usually just eat grass, and they're huge and big and
Right, exactly. Right, they build, well, exactly. So the people who are eating animal for their protein source have to understand that that animal got their protein, exactly what you said, from grass. But also know that animals travel, right? They don't stay in one place. So they travel to get different foods. There was a great movie years ago, a documentary. Oh, I have to think about the name of it. There was a light bulb as the cover of the video, and this gentleman who was a farmer, but organic farmer, and he had like 3 huge pastures, and so what he would do is he would have the cows in one pasture, and then when he moved them out after a period of time, he'd move them to a different pasture. Then he'd move the pigs to that pasture. And now whatever the cow poop generated in terms of the plant life, then the pigs would feed off of that. And then he would move the cows again, move the pigs there, and then he would move chickens into that pasture where the cows had been, and then the pigs, and now the chickens. And why the chickens? Because the chickens are now going to feed on, because chickens are omnivores, so they're going to eat the grass seed, the grass, the plant seed that comes up. They're going to also eat the worms in the ground and the bugs and the flies and the larvae on the pig and cow poop. So animals, will travel, maybe not the world, but they will travel to find different plants. We know that even dogs, when they're not feeling well, will go out in the yard and they'll consume certain grasses, certain plants. I watched this back in the day when I had my Weimaraner, Nero, that's on the back of the book, who had cancer, and he'd go out in the yard and he'd consume very, very specific grasses. And if we were walking and he saw that particular plant, he would stop to eat it. So variety is definitely important, but you're right, we can mono eat and then we can, cross over and bring in variety. Other thoughts or questions, you guys? Yes, Harm?
Yeah, in my own experience about the mono eating is also that if you are a person that usually tends to eat too much, mono eating really is a great help because variety. Every time you after some grapes you have a mango, it creates a new appetite. So sticking to one thing really helps there. And also, I think. Yeah, it's. I mean, one of the things, of course, of Dr. Morse or any advanced soul, so to speak, simplicity is something that's really worthwhile to study. And whether it's just having one hobby and do that really well, or picking one food, is a big challenge for most of us, but it's worthwhile the effort, I think.
That's a really, really good point. And that could obviously, and I know that you're thinking that can go across many different aspects, if not all of the aspects of our life, is keeping things very simple. And I think that's why, after going to all the different doctors that I went to when I was sick and coming to Dr. Morse, I think that's why it resonated with me so strongly. And, I'll never forget him saying, after explaining the cells and the blood and the lymphatic system, say, that sounds kind of simple, doesn't it? And I said, yeah, it does. And he said, shh, don't tell anybody, right? Don't tell anyone that it's this simple to get the body back where it needs to be. The other thing that I found is that, and I think Kathy and Veronique can probably attest to this, is that over the years of, meeting different people who have studied under Dr. Morse, everybody likes to put their own stamp on things, right? They like to make it like it was their thought, their idea, their great new contribution to this simple basic process. And what I find is that they tend to complicate it, and it tends to not work. So I remember there was someone who was doing a group detox that was loosely based on Dr. Morrison, and they probably drew in together other different practitioners over the years, or authors, maybe not clinicians, but authors. And so this detox that used Dr. Morrison's herbs also made people eat, like, I don't know, a dozen bananas a day. And first of all, I couldn't imagine eating a dozen bananas. I think that I would get kind of sick of them. I think that they're really, really heavy. And my monkey, who has left the room now, years ago when I was a firefighter, called me up, and he said, I was at the station, and he said, boy, something's wrong. I'm not feeling well. I said, what's the matter? He goes, man, my heart is just racing. I said, really? What's going on? Something happened? Is there something stressful? No. I've been working behind my computer all day. He's a software engineer. He was working behind his computer all day. I said, well, what did you eat today? He said, oh, I eat here and there. And I said, well, what did you eat? He said, well, I've been really busy behind the computer, so I just kept grabbing bananas. He ate about a dozen bananas and had a major potassium overload and nothing to balance it out with. So you remember that, right? Yes.
He repeated that episode on the ship.
He did. He repeated it on a cruise years ago. So there's your mono eating, but I would actually not mono eat bananas. They're really slow to move through your system compared to other things. But Harm, that's such a good point, is the simplicity. Keep things simple. We'll go to Claire and then Harm.
I have one more question. It might be a Friday question. I'm really having a hard time with people telling me what they eat when they're sick. Like,
when sick, meaning a cold, or what kind of sick?
Like I just have a friend that's, got this tremendous back pain, and, and she's bedridden, and she's going to all these doctors, and, and she drinks coffee all day. So, and, even my friends and family, I like, now that I'm eating this way, and I know you said, like, in the beginning, oh, you're going to see that you're not going to want to eat, blah, blah, blah. So, like, when I hear that my cousin is giving my husband chicken pot pie, I'm like,
oh, that's painful.
And I don't know how to deal with it. It could be a Friday question.
It could be a Friday question, but I would, let's ask everyone else also what they think. I tend to be kind of make jokes. So when somebody says to me about coffee, well, there's a lot of studies on coffee, and it's really high in antioxidants. And then I say, yeah, what else is really high in antioxidants? And they say, no, what? I say, well, cocaine. Cocaine is super high in antioxidants. It's also super high in other things, right? So I try to make a joke, but in a way that they might look at things and say, oh, okay, just because something, like Anthony said, just because something has a high protein doesn't mean it has other good benefits to it. Kathy, go ahead.
Celine wrote in the chat that she did a juice fast yesterday and had a hard time sleeping. She wrote, I feel like my heart was beating faster in general throughout the day.
Yeah. So again, that can happen with high potassium. It depends on what you juiced. Now, if you brought greens in there, like spinach or celery, that's got a good sodium balance. So if there were greens and you had a good sodium balance and you still felt that way, that's a healing crisis. So that becomes the challenge of knowing what to have.
Oh, I didn't add any grains in it. It was just fruits.
Just fruits. Okay. So it's lovely. Oh, can you guys mute your Yeah, I don't know whose it might be. Yes, Celine, so that's awesome. I mean, we love, and you and I've talked about, and I've talked with a lot of people about going on that. I love my grape, my pineapple, my apple. But if you're seeing that, then it's showing you a couple of things. Yes, high potassium, but I'm going to say that it super energized you and made you, that's why you couldn't sleep. And then those palpitations or that jittery feeling, I'm gonna say that that is a healing crisis. So when you see that, you can maybe for your next time you're going to do it, maybe make a vegetable juice to kind of have in between. And don't worry so much about us needing to stick to one juice. Make a vegetable juice for you, and that's going to probably balance you out. Harm, you had a comment or a question?
Well, first to react to Celine, I was just wondering, what time did you have the juice? Was it just before you went to bed, or was it long before you went to bed, or was it long before?
No, so I had like 6 different juices during the day, and the last one was about 9 p.m.
Okay, well, I know that then I have trouble sleeping. So anyway, so my remark was, I'm just it's a little bit off topic, but there was a question about juicing, and the common theory is that we need certain calories to sustain ourselves, and we get energy from food. And according to the natural hygienists, it's the other way around. We have energy, and we use that energy to take what we need from the food that we ingest. So the easier for the body the food is, the more energy we can the less energy we have to use to get what we want from it. So that's why the pyramid of Dr. Moore's, water obviously requires no energy at all, or hardly any energy, and maybe dry fasting even less. And the further you go down, like juicing is still very easy for the body to, it expends very little energy. So whenever someone's tired, rather than thinking I have to eat to get my energy up, that's actually the wrong way of going about it. You should just go to sleep because you're just tired. And when you have energy, you can digest your food. So it's an interesting thought.
That really is, and just to make it really simple to conceptualize is the difference between eating a piece of watermelon versus eating a steak, right? Or a Thanksgiving turkey. What we do is we eat that and then we go crash, right? Or we eat that great big meal, even if it's everything. And for those of you who are not living in the United States, Thanksgiving is like a great big pig fest, right? We pig out. But you have that great big meal and then you want to sleep. So you're absolutely right, Harm. I think food definitely can deplete energy just like that, right? What we just mentioned. That the digestive process to break down high proteins and condensed carbohydrates and things takes a lot of the body. And I think you're right that the energy it takes to process fruit is the least amount of energy, and then it gives you energy in the form of stored nutrition, right? And this form of stored sugars for when you need energy later. So, but I definitely think that there's no doubt certain foods totally deplete your energy. Yeah. Other questions or comments? Yes, Freya.
My comment is to Claire, and I just wanted to clarify. So Claire, you're kind of, hearing what other people are eating and are like, oh my gosh, and want to maybe heal the world, fix the world from all that that we were also doing, but that other people are doing to hurt themselves. So yeah, I've been on that kick too, kind of like, I want to tell you all about this. And then it was taking a lot of energy out of me. And I know I need to preserve my energy now for what I'm doing, because then I need to rest. I need to sit down. I need to not work out, which is what I tried to do. I thought I could get back into maybe going out for a walk or a quick walk. So, but I think if I focus on me and a little less on others, I can do a little bit better, unless they ask me. Otherwise, I might go crazy trying to fix everybody else's problems. And the only real control I have is working on myself. Is that kind of what you're talking about? I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
There you go, Claire. Gotcha. Oh, there you go.
So, no, I mean, I've been on this journey probably for about 30 years, and I've been there, done that with trying to fix everybody, and I know all that, but it's just like now, like the higher I go into like, the more I know, and I don't want to hear it, I really don't want to hear it, but it's bombarding me, and I can't, I like my little seclusion here where I am, but I know, like I keep saying, in a couple of weeks I can go back home, and then, like, you remember how you just said it's just the blood and the lymph and how simple it is? Like now, it's like, it's simple, like, but just, I don't want to know. Just don't tell me your stuff and,
I know. Well, let me tell you something. Being vegan for 28 and a half years, you have no idea how many people confess to me what they eat or when we're at. I can't tell you how many times a holiday meal at my brother's house, which is just an absolute slaughterhouse. And people find their way to me at the table as my husband and I sit there with our vegan meal, and they try to convince me how much fruits and vegetables they eat. Or
oh yeah, I had an apple. I'm like, oh, I eat fruit. I had an apple.
Or no, this is not what I usually do. This is, I eat tons of fruits, and I'm like, do I have a white collar on? Am I asking for your act of contrition? Like, it's not, I don't care. Have what you want. It's all good, right?
Yeah, it's just dealing with all this,
I think the other thing, though, Claire, is that, like you said, you just keep elevating yourself in this world of food and health and detox and cleansing and alkalization. And, it's kind of like when you get a new car and suddenly you start seeing that same car everywhere, and you thought I was the only one, and now you see that car everywhere. So granted, you're not seeing the same cars, but you're driving in this body, but now everything is more obvious to you, and it's getting a little bit more on your nerves. And I think that, I don't know, you guys, what do you think? What would you, Kathy, what would you tell Claire?
I feel that you're the power of example. It's like you said, Roseanne, people come and they confess to you because on some level they know what they're doing is wrong, whether it's for their health or for, the animal's sake. I feel like when I started this journey, people were telling me their opinions, not that I was asking. And I too, like Claire, was very frustrated until I just blocked them out and I just started being the power of example. And then before I know it, all those people who last year didn't believe what I was doing and it made no sense to them suddenly want to know all about it because suddenly they were having health issues. So that's when I decided just do what I believe in. Therefore, I know I'm doing it right, and then it can be a power to example to other people. All you could do is plant a seed, and they might not want to know about it. But let's say 6 months down the line, someone else plants that same seed, they'll be like, "Oh, there could be some truth to this."
Right. Okay. I'll
Yeah.
try.
You could also take the song from Frozen.
Let it go.
Thank you. I wasn't going to sing it. It wouldn't be fair to you guys. Okay, well, we're pretty much out of time, but I want to just make sure, is there anything anyone else wants to add or say? No, we're good? Wonderful. Well, thank you guys again from all over the world, which is so cool. Thank you for joining us. Some of you, I want to say, go to bed. Just go to bed. 2 of you at least, go to bed. Maybe don't juice as much fruit tomorrow. And hopefully, you're welcome, Rachel. And hopefully we will see you guys on Friday.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.